5:30 p.m. and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at QueenCityCabinetryNH.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, 3 dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
You are listening to WMNHLP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA.
Let's wake faster, wake up, get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, wake up, wake up, let's wake faster, wake up, to get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, wake up, wake up, let's wake faster, wake up, to get up. Hey, today man, I think it's a wonderful day, and I want fun with my wife, 'cause it's the first of the month, and I'll be smoking, joking, rolling, buzzing, sipping on 40 ounces again. Calm down, we got to the front run, all night we ride. They like to wear night. I give up my partner, they give me Sunday, so double up till it's what you need. We got 20 good B.O.D. thing for the green leaf. Give it up for the first show, but it lay low, 'cause the poor feet when they roll so low. Break if you can't get away, but it toast that, yeah, yo, keep your bankroll. We're having a celebration, let us stay high. You can better believe when it's time to grind. I'm down for mine, crime after crime. Finna creep to the bag, 'cause mom's got a grub on the grill. If we got the you know it's the first of the one that might choose, we thugs for real. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up, wake up, and I seen that my sister was already there. She said I'm around go get my stance. Watch I make sure no one snatches my check, and then that's the mailman. Sold to the mail and put it up in my pocket. So let me hit it and 99 to give me a up about 10 dockets. But ain't no bucket ride that read up. Hop on the 10 to the clip. Ready to get him up with him at thugs and to catch that dub. Man, I gotta get there. Player, holler, St. Clair got much to offer when I'm a peeps on 93. I'll open the clock like for some dollars. So get it back again, I want a quarter out. Most all of my clutch just got the same, and we gonna run it all up the smoke. Tell them never to change the hydro. We know what the cuts, so the buck to the popo. Toss to the giggle and low with the ground on same mode. Running through the alley, get in the alley. Come at the second of sundown, no front from January on out of December. I'm loving the first of the month. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's wake up, wake up. Get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's wake up, wake up. Get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's wake up, wake up. Get up, get up, get up, catch it, get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's wake up, wake up. Get up, get up, get up, catch it. It's the first of the month. Gotta grind, gotta get mine. In the hood that I claim and I slang on the double nine. Gotta find them dubs. Gonna get 40, can a thug get love? What's up? Come and thug on my corner, begging me a donor. St. Clair thugs don't like that. And selling them dummies, making that money come back. Automatic sell crack. From the 1st to the 15th, thug them up pretty cheap. But I gotta save, gotta come up. Put it all in the club. Wanna get bloated, they gonna stove. Grab a couple loads, start a roll to the bag. Count on my profit and add it to the stash.
Gotta watch my back, see you later. Be out to rob me, fools, but never no shows and no losses. Don't be keeping these buzzers up off me. See, get us over a whole block, spin a couple bills, thug, burn a lot of green on the fire.
Wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up.
Waking up, feeling buzz up early in the morning, stretching, I'm yawning, lightweight bitch, chugga like I take a fifth to the dawn. It's night I got kick with my truck, with a dance, so I'm getting me hustle on. Hop on the phone, calling up crazy phone, wanna know did your OG check come?
She put me down.
I'm home on the bus with busy buzz, and I'm coming with a punch of that funk from home. Here I come, T put me down. Oh God, how I love when it first come around. Now I'm freaking me black and mild, running through time. You see the first get celebrated, rushing to the block 'cause I wanna get faded. Looking on wild 'cause I'm needing me hair braided. We heavy off into this game. Two to the first, just call me that pro slang. Them records from the east to the west coast, making that money all across the world, man. Go on, say clear true, and I know that working late tonight, but I gotta make it live, so I ask the Lord to keep my homeboys high. We be coming over here, it's all about making more. Wanna first get a flip, but don't flip. Getting live with the bump, those poetic hustlers in the graveyard shift on the first.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up, get up, get up, get up, cash your checks and get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, it's wake up, wake up.
Looking at a man that won't be pushed, like I said. Won't be long before I'm gone, long gone. Two of us and only one side to right. Built your fences high, so now I have to climb. You can have it, with or without, but you can't have it both ways. So tell me, baby, does it have to end this way? Used to be a priority. Now I won't be the option.
welcome. Here we go. It is that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today it is the first of the month, hence the little Bone Thugs and Harmony to open up today's show. First of the month, as that's become kind of an unofficial tradition here. When I remember, I'll be the first to admit I've not been consistent with it. There have been firsts of the month where, well, for one thing, sometimes it falls on a weekend, but there have been firsts of the month where I have not thought to play that song. So I haven't. So you can't say that I've overdone it, but I try to remember. I always love that song. The two massive hits from that album that Bone Thugs had were that and Crossroads. And Crossroads is the one everyone remembers. And First of the Month has always been kind of secondary to that, but First of the Month has always been my favorite. So, and I played Does It Have to End This Way, the remastered version from the band Stand Up Audio. We had two of the guys, Joe Perro and Joe Cadret, in with us in studio yesterday on the couch, and had a great conversation, and we were sharing some of their new music. And this was completely my own fault. I had misunderstood something, and the version of that song that I played was the older version. They have a new remastered version. So I told the guys, I said, well, you know what? I'll play the remastered one today at the top of the show, and it does sound better. And I thought the original sounded great too, but yeah, you can really hear some of the dynamics, especially, sitting here with headphones on. The dynamics really come out in the remastered version. It just sounds fantastic. And about that, I have 2 tickets to give away to see Stand Up Audio this Saturday night at the Rex Theater, right downtown here, right around the corner on Amherst Street. Jenny just messaged me and said, don't forget the ticket giveaway. Yes. Thank you. They will be here right around the corner, like I said, at the Rex, and an evening with Stand Up Audio. They're the only band playing. Oh, she said oi and unsent the message. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Jenny. No, it's good to remind me because I do forget things. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. Jenny and I will be there. So come see the band and then come say hello to us as well. So I will offer these. And by the way, you don't have to pick up physical tickets or anything. I will just I will give them your name and they will put you on the list. So you'll be on the guest list, you and a +1. And so I will offer that to whoever wants it. Whoever is the first caller. Just if you call to claim, again, they're not really tickets. You'll be on the list. You'll be comped, as we say. But if you do call in to claim them, just please don't be like, oh, what the heck, I'll call and maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. Please only claim these tickets if you're definitely going to go, because don't be in radio they call it a prize pig. People who we've had this conversation with EZG before. We won't rehash all of that, but people who just like to win prizes, whether they actually are interested in the prize or not. Don't be a prize pig. But if you're actually interested in going, and you should be interested in going because they're such a great band, we're really looking forward to seeing them Saturday night at the Rex Theater. So it was kind of funny. If you heard yesterday's show, the guys were here, Joe Perro and Joe Cadret, 2 of the guys from Stand Up Audio, and we were at the end of the show, and one of them said, oh, by the way, Matt, we wanted to, it might be a little late now, but we wanted to give away a couple of tickets, if you have listeners who want to go. And it was literally 5 minutes to the end of the show. I said, well, I could do that tomorrow. A little late to do it today. That was kind of funny. But give me a call, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. First come, first serve. We'll get you on the list, and then we will see you Saturday night at the Rex Theater. So that's going to be cool. I have not been inside the Rex Theater in, I don't even know how long it's been. I've been there before, but I've not been inside that building in a very long time. So I'm really looking forward to it. And Jenny and I are looking forward to going to see the band live and going to see you there as well, whoever you are. who calls in to claim that. 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. You have to call to get the tickets. I'm just saying, if you want to interact on the show, you can text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat, and we will say hello to everybody in there in a moment. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Coming up today on the show, we do have a guest Skyping in the second hour, Kevin Hammer from the great state of New York. He's going to be Skyping in. I think he was on with us maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. And we had a pretty interesting conversation, and I kind of felt like we just barely scratched the surface. So I said to Jenny, Jenny she books all the guests for the show, and she's just been doing a fantastic job. So many great guests and keeping the schedule nice and full, which is wonderful. And I said to Jenny, I I feel like there's so much more I could talk to him about. So anyway, he will be Skyping in the second hour, numero dos, here on Matt Connarton Unleashed. Let's see, a few other things going on. So it is a Thursday. I keep having to remind myself what day it is because we had a Monday holiday. It is Thursday, right? Yes. Today is Thursday, which means tonight is trivia night at the Hop Knot. Broderick Lang hosts it now every Thursday night starting at 7 p.m. If you are going to participate, I suggest that you call ahead or communicate with Kenny at the Hop Knot via social media. But the smartest thing to do is to just call and reserve a spot, because those spots do fill up very, very quickly. And they've got a lot of big events going on they've got a lot planned for Pride Month, of course. Happy Pride Month. It is June 1st after all. Also, too, Juneteenth will be coming up too, and they always do something big for that too. So there's a lot going on at the Hop Knot this month. So we will keep you apprised. We got to get Kenny back in here on a usually Monday is the one day of the week that he can actually make it in. I don't know if he's ever been on the show on a different day of the week. Monday and Tuesday is their weekend. But yeah, so lots going on at the Hop Knot. Also, I want to make sure everyone knows, Jenny just had another article published in The Mighty at themighty.com. This one is titled, "When Access to Medication and Treatment is a Matter of Life and Death." So we've been sharing that out. And of course, you can find it on her social media. But also, if you go to themighty.com, it is there as well. So make sure you check that out. That just went up today, actually, just a little bit before the show. That was published. So very, very good. Also, DJ Reckless is back from his little mini tour there to Nashville, and he is going to be, I wanted to mention this, he's going to be at the 603 Bar and Grill tonight. And it's open decks, and it's interesting. So I'd never heard of this concept until he mentioned it one day that he was on the show. It's kind of like open mic night, but with turntables and you DJ. So open decks are back tonight. Signups at 8:45. There will be... okay. There will be a Rev 7 and SRT 1000 here. So come through whether you want to dance, DJ, or just drink. So that is tonight. Turn Thursday. Open decks every week at the 603 Bar and Grill. Now, the flyer says signups start at 8:30 and the party starts at 9. Well, anyway, go see DJ Reckless tonight if you get a chance at, you could go to the Hop Knot. You know what you could do? This is what you should do. I'm going to tell you what you should do. And I have no right to be your social planner, but I'm going to do it anyway. You should go to the Hop Knot for trivia night. And then when you get done at the Hop Knot, you should go to the 603 Bar and Grill and see DJ Reckless. Just a suggestion. All right. I want to, we'll say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat, and then we've got to get updated on the debt limit. We are down to the wire, my friends. It passed the House, but it might actually get stuck in this. I can't believe it. It might actually get stuck in the Senate. We'll see. But we'll talk about it in a minute. But let me give the contact info one more time. If you'd like to join us on the show today, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. First caller who would like them gets 2 spots on the guest list for stand-up audio Saturday night at the Rex Theater. 603-250-6007. I'll play another one of their songs too later in the show at the top of the hour when we're going to bring in our guest Kevin Hammer. I'll play another one of their songs. A lot of great feedback on yesterday's show. People really like that band. You can text me at 617-917-4476. You can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. Hit me on social media at Matt Connarton or email me matt@mattconnerton.com. Let's see who we have in the Facebook live chat. Jay Fed joins us from the great state of Vermont and says, good afternoon, everyone. Rhonda Favero says, California in the house. Hello, Rhonda. Jenny, of course, is in the chat and says, shalom, peeps. Isaac Banks, who, if I remember correctly, is from Greensboro, North Carolina, says, hello, hashtag Matt. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Michael Broadhurst. What's up? And have you been busy? Now, I don't know who this Michael Broadhurst person is. I'm not aware of them, but apparently Isaac Banks is using the Facebook live chat as a conduit to communicate with this person, which is fine. Melanie La Liberty from the great state of Vermont joins us in the chat room. Hello, Melanie. Melanie says, who is Jenny scheduled to yell at today? Just kidding, kind of. No. No one's getting yelled at. I assume Melanie's referring to Monday's show. We had Steve Laffey here, and the conversation did get animated, but nobody was yelling. And it was, I thought it was a great discussion. I like Steve a lot. I would probably never in a million years actually vote for him. Because he's pretty conservative and I'm not, so we just disagree on too many things. But I do like him, and he's very open to having dialogue. He's not everyone is, in the sense that most people, and I think social media has done a lot to reinforce this, unfortunately. Most people can't really have mature dialogue and discussion where they disagree about things without resorting to insults. And you see what goes on social media. So I love being able to have guests on whom I disagree with about things and see things differently, but we can still have a high level dialogue about it. And I was really I was very happy with Monday's show, and Steve had a great time too. He really liked it. He's already chomping at the bit to come back, so which is nice. I mean, he doesn't have a chance in hell of winning the nomination, obviously, but he is a Republican candidate for the presidency. Let's see. Shannon is on the line. Hi, Shannon.
Hola.
What's up?
I said hola.
Hola, mi llamo Mateo. ¿Cómo estás? Or something. I took 3 years of Spanish, Shannon. I remember very little of it. I didn't take any. Well, hey, but hey, hola, that's a good start.
Well, yeah, because you kind of need to know good morning, good afternoon, and good evening when you're, like, in Mexico. Uh-huh. And it's not hard to, buenos noches, tardes.
Oh, yeah. Buenos stuff, yeah. Buenos
That's
dias.
That's not what it's called. 4. On Retro Spectrum Radio.
Yes.
Last Friday.
Yes.
Okay. Should I wait for this call till Friday and call you?
You don't have to.
Okay. You got an answer. The song played, and you said it was, was it Simple Minds? Do you remember the answer? Or I can't.
I don't know, okay. Shannon. I have no idea. No clue.
I don't either.
All right, Shannon.
The weird thing about it was the first chords of it. The first 9 chords of the song sound exactly like another song, and now I can't remember that either. So good night, good evening, sweet dreams, everybody.
All right, Shannon. Thank you for the call.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. All right, I was laughing at I can't read that comment on the air, but Melanie said something funny. 603-250-6007 is the number, 603-250-6007 if you'd like to join us. Somebody was just hovering around in the hallway and looking in the window, and I think they're on the wrong floor. They were just like, ooh, a radio station. J-Fed says Shannon gets the tickets. No, well, she could have them if she wanted them, and she was definitely going to go, but she did not express any interest in the tickets. But that does open up the line for you, 603-250-6007. J-Fed says Ron can take her. Oh. Isaac Banks says Michael Broadhurst is a singer-dancer, and he is in the singing group called I Plus Michael's Law. Ah, yes. Let's see. Yeah, Jenny said, no, I did not yell in any way. No. I mean, the conversation did get animated, but it was good. I thought it was very good. I really enjoyed Monday's show. Like I said, I like talking with people with whom I disagree, and we can disagree, but still have a really good conversation. So, I want to. I'm frustrated about this. So, obviously we've been talking a lot about the debt limit for a couple of weeks now, and we are so close. They got a deal, of course, over the course of last weekend. I know it's already Thursday, but last weekend, Kevin McCarthy and President Biden, they came to an agreement on the debt limit, or I guess I should say their negotiators did. And they did get it through the House. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward. Chip Roy, for example, Congressman Chip Roy I believe he's from Texas. He's furious. He would have loved to have defaulted, I guess, and others. There are some in the House who are very upset, and they're openly talking about they're going to try to oust McCarthy. That will be interesting to see. I don't think they're going to be able to oust McCarthy, because then what happens? Then who do they replace him with? Here's what I'm frustrated about. So I was very relieved to see this finally, because it looked like there was a possibility it wouldn't even get out of the Rules Committee in the House, which would be scary. But it did. And I think, I don't remember the numbers. I'm bad at remembering numbers, but I think it got more votes in the House total than was expected. So then on to the Senate. But now we've got a problem in the Senate. The problem, well, first of all, the first inklings of a problem with, remember Tim Kaine, Senator Tim Kaine? We don't really hear about him that much. But we heard about him a lot, of course, in 2016. He was Hillary Clinton's running mate. He was a potential prospective vice president. And then, of course, they lost to Trump and Pence. But apparently he's upset over the pipeline that Joe Manchin got put into the bill, which was necessary to get everybody on board. It was part of the deal. So he was threatening to try to have an amendment tacked onto this bill for the to raise the debt limit. And we don't have time for that, dude. I'm not kidding. We don't have time. It's the first of the month. Default happens, Janet Yellen said June 5th. That's the X date. Now, it could move. It's moved before. Obviously, you don't always know exactly from one day to the next in terms of revenue coming in terms of money going out. That can change. It's a bit fluid. So, at one point it was June 1st, and then it was revised to June 5th. So it could be revised again a little bit further out, or it could be revised a little closer, because that's what usually ends up happening. Usually, when Janet Yellen tells us, well, we have a new X date in terms of when we will be out of money, usually it gets revised forward, and it's like, we're even more out of time than we thought that we were. We are really close to the edge here. That's what usually happens. Now we have this. I just saw this pop up on thehill.com. Senate defense hawks hold up debt ceiling bill in protest of cuts. and lack of Ukraine money. It looks like this may have a harder time getting through the Senate than it did getting through the House. And this is not acceptable, because here's what could potentially happen. And this, so I know I was very pessimistic for a while. I thought Biden was going to have to try to invoke the 14th Amendment. Then I became, I started the week off cautiously optimistic, because they did arrive at a deal over the weekend, and Kevin McCarthy seemed pretty confident that he would be able to get it through the House, and he did. And good on him. I know I've been very critical of him, and I have a lot of criticisms of him, but he got it done. And listen, both he and the president did pretty well in some ways here, and both won a little bit more respect from me, to be honest with you. McCarthy, because he delivered on what he said that he would, and he did get it through the House. And I was skeptical that he could do it, but he did it. And as far as Biden and Steve Ricchetti, who I believe was the chief negotiator for the Democrats, they didn't get anything. They didn't gain anything through this deal necessarily. I mean, they kind of did, if you really want to get into the weeds, which I don't want to right now because we have a larger problem here. But they did better than I thought they would at protecting a lot of the legislative agenda that the president had gotten through, or that the Democrats had gotten through, and that Biden signed into law. I thought they were going to have to let a lot of that go, and I was surprised, actually, to be honest with you, that they were able to protect as much as they did. So I think that I think it's kind of a, to the extent that there are any winners here, I think that it's kind of a win for both of them. I think you could argue that both House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden and his negotiators, I think they both in some ways outperformed expectations. I was saying last week that I thought Biden was in way over his head, and that I thought McCarthy was too weak and powerless as a House Speaker because he had to give away so much just to get that job. Both of them, to me, in my eyes, outperformed my very low and very pessimistic expectations of them. So I will say that. But now we got a problem. So here's what's happening right now with this. Again, this is from thehill.com. Senate defense hawks hold up debt ceiling bill in protest of cuts and lack of Ukraine money. It says here, a group of Senate Republican defense hawks are holding up a passage of legislation to raise the debt ceiling in protest of a 1% across-the-board spending cut that would go into effect if Congress doesn't pass its spending bill on time, and to pressure Senate leaders to agree to move a funding measure for the Ukraine war later this year. Only a few hours after the debt limit deal crafted by President Biden and Speaker McCarthy passed the House with more than 300 votes, which again was a higher number than was expected. Defense-minded Republican senators are threatening to hold up the bill to protect the Pentagon. A Republican senator familiar with floor discussions said there are, quote, people who are willing, unquote, to hold up the bill unless leaders commit to moving a defense supplemental later this year. But the source added there's, quote, a pathway to getting this done by midnight, unquote. Now, there's more to this, but listen, whether you're these Republicans who want to amend something in the bill, or whether you're a Senate Democrat who maybe you're on the progressive end of things and you're not happy with this bill and you want something changed, or you're Tim Kaine who's mad about a pipeline that you don't think should have been in there, suck it up. We don't have time for this. I cannot put this in any starker terms than that. I'm sorry for anyone whose feelings are hurt, who don't feel comfortable voting for this in its present form. But we don't have time to fool around on this, because if you hold this up and you start attaching amendments to this in the Senate, here's what happens. the bill gets amended in the Senate, and then it has to go back to the House. And then the amended version has to pass the House. We don't have time. The X date is June 5. Today is June 1. We don't have time for this anymore. This has to be done today. That's it. I want this done. And let me tell you something. Anybody who gets in the way of this getting done today, of this being voted on by midnight tonight and passed so it can go to the president's desk, anyone who stands in the way of that needs to be at the earliest possible opportunity. In other words, their next election. They need to be primaried and they need to be out. They need to be out of office as soon as possible. I don't care if they've done other great things. I don't care if there's someone I respect. Not that I respect many of these people in Congress. To be honest, I mean, there's a few, but and I'm not necessarily, look, I understand there's some people who are going to vote against it on principle, because there are some people who are trying to have it both ways, and they kind of can have it both ways. Senators who are saying, well, just like there were some in the House, who are saying, well, I can't in good conscience vote for this because I don't agree with it. But I also know that we can't default. But there's enough people who are going to vote for it that I can vote against it out of protest for the things in the bill that I don't agree with. And it's still going to pass regardless of how I vote. So I can make a stand, a principled stand, without necessarily causing the United States to default on our full faith and credit for the first time in American history. Okay, I will accept that. But what is unacceptable is if anyone actually manages to attach an amendment to this, forcing it to be sent back to the House. That is not acceptable, because that, we're already, it shouldn't have gone this far to begin with. Okay? We shouldn't be this close to default to begin with. But you push this back to the House? Oh, we do not have time for this. It says here again, this is from thehill.com. The ink on the agreement is barely dry, but some GOP senators are already looking for a way to get around the cap on defense spending, which falls well short of what they think is needed, by moving a supplemental spending bill to provide more military aid to Ukraine. Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, the ranking member on the Appropriations Committee and Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, said, quote, "We are exchanging language, and I certainly hope that we can get there with a commitment to bring the appropriations bill to the Senate floor so that we're never in a situation where we trigger the automatic 1% across the board indiscriminate cut," unquote. The debt limit bill would implement an across the board 1% cut on discretionary spending if Congress fails to pass the annual spending bills by the end of the calendar year, which some Republicans worry that Democrats could use as leverage in future negotiations, since many social welfare programs are funded by mandatory spending. And while the defense budget will otherwise be capped below the rate of inflation, Collins said she and her allies also want Senate Majority Leader Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to promise to move a defense supplemental spending package to ensure continued military support for Ukraine. She said, quote, "The second part would be a commitment for a defense supplemental, an emergency defense supplemental," unquote. Collins said she wants Schumer to make these commitments in a, quote, how do you say it? Colleague? I don't know that word. Something, Colloguy? Or I'm sorry, Q. Colloquy? I don't know that word. Or to make a statement on the floor, she said. I'll have to look up that word after. Or maybe if somebody wants to look that up for me in the chat room. I don't know that term. I love learning new words. Republican senators, including Collins and Senators Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton. Oh, his name came up on the show Monday. And Dan Sullivan took to the Senate floor today to vent their concerns about the defense spending caps in the bill. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell yesterday said the defense caps are the worst part of the deal. Graham fumed that there's, quote, not a penny in this bill to help Ukraine defeat Putin, unquote. I think that's all separate, though. He noted that Ukrainian forces are about to launch an offensive to push back Russian troops and declared, quote, we need to send a clear message to Putin that when it comes to your invasion of Ukraine, we're going to support the Ukrainians to ensure your loss. If we don't do that, then we're going to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, unquote. Cotton said under the spending caps negotiated by Biden and McCarthy, the defense budget will grow only half as fast as the rate of inflation, quote, causing even more real cuts to defense, unquote. He also argued the 1% cut to penalize lawmakers for not passing spending bills on time, quote, means defense spending will go down if the sequester kicks in. If the sequester takes effect, Democrats will get more welfare spending while defense gets cut, unquote. Cotton also said, quote, the bill poses a mortal risk to our national security by cutting our defense budget, which I cannot support as grave dangers gather on the horizon, unquote. So, to these folks, I would say this. Can you even begin to comprehend the grave danger that is posed if we don't get this taken care of right now and we end up defaulting? So if you want to, Susan Collins, she wants Chuck Schumer to make a commitment. If it's a separate bill, fine. But you cannot attach amendments to this. We don't have time for it. And I cannot believe that we could be in a situation where and I'm going to try to remain cautiously optimistic, but I cannot believe that we could be in a situation where this got through the House, thank goodness, but now it might actually get caught up in the Senate. And we just don't have time. Don't have time for it. And I'm trying to look to see just quickly if there's anything else on this that we need to be worried about. I mean, I still think this is going to get done. I do. But CNBC is reporting defense spending levels threaten to delay Senate plan to fast track debt ceiling bill. Yeah, that's not good. 603-250-6007 is the number if you'd like to chime in. 603-250-6007. I'll just remind you, too, we've got 2 tickets for stand-up audio at the Rex Theater this Saturday. If you're interested in going, give me a call at 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. Come see the band and come say hello to Jenny and I, who will be there that evening. Show starts at 7:30. It's an evening with stand-up audio. And I think it is going to be a really good time. Also, coming up at the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by sorry, I just got distracted by something I saw. Kevin Hammer. This is a little bit yeah, well, look at this quickly. I think this is interesting. Mediaites reporting that Trump turns on the term woke and says half the people can't define it. That's an interesting observation because he's right. People do have a difficult time defining it. It says here, former President Donald Trump, who has long bemoaned woke culture and complained about it at length, does not like the term woke anymore. As he explained during his appearance on the campaign trail in Iowa, Trump, who spoke at the West Side Conservative Club, stated, quote, I don't like the term woke because I hear the term woke, 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 and it's just a term they use. Half the people can't define it. They don't know what it is, unquote. Well, that's true. Some of you might have seen there's a viral video of a conservative who wrote a book about wokeism, who, when asked in an interview to define it, she couldn't even define it. but she wrote a book about it. It's baffling. It says here, after taking a question from a recent high school grad asking about current school policies and attacks on censorship, Trump responded with a position in agreement with what is outlined in the Don't Say Gay law, the so-called Don't Say Gay law, spearheaded by Florida Governor and fellow presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis. Despite his recent souring on the term, Trump has used it on several occasions to criticize corporate executives, among others, including DeSantis. While Trump claims that the term woke may be overused and rendered meaningless, DeSantis has decided to campaign on it, all but declaring war on it, embracing it as a catch-all term for liberal opinions, policies, and activism. Trump's change of opinion might have more to do with his dislike of DeSantis more than anything, and he's clearly moved on to more articulate ways to set himself apart from his GOP rival. By the way, you know what nobody ever mentions about this? So that term, sometimes these words, they enter the American lexicon and then the meaning changes. Sometimes it'll start out meaning one thing to a certain group of people, and then another group of people will take a term like that and sort of co-opt it. And then it becomes a completely different thing. Because when I first started, I don't know how many years ago now, that the word's been around for a while. It might seem like it's really new because now we just hear it so much. But the term actually has been around for a while. I remember, I think the first time, who does that song? There's a song called Stay Woke. Is that Childish Gambino? I think that was the first time I ever heard that song. I mean, that term, stay woke. And then the next time, stay woke. I think that's, yeah, Childish Gambino. When did that come out? Oh, it's actually, the song is called Redbone, but it's Childish Gambino. Yeah, that came out in 2017. So that was the first time I ever heard that. Stay woke. But then I started hearing it. So this will show you, if you don't realize this, how much the meaning of the term has changed. The next time I saw that term applied was I found a political song parody. You know, I love a good political song parody. There's one on YouTube that I found around that time called Alex Jones is So Woke. And I started seeing that term being used as woke to describe sort of conspiracy theorist people who they were being called woke because they had woken up to what's really happening in the world and these conspiracies that they believe in. So that was considered woke. But then the meaning of the term began to drastically change. And I think when somebody like Ron DeSantis uses it, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, he seems to be using it. You know, he talks about defeating wokeism and whatnot. He seems to be using it to mean, I guess, anyone who has, who's, you know, someone like myself, who, you know, I consider myself an LGBTQ plus ally. So I'm sure he would consider me to be woke, or someone who believes in not just being not racist, but anti-racist, someone who believes that we still have some problems in that area, I guess would be considered woke. I mean, the term does mean different things to different people. I remember a discussion one day in the chat room about it. So even now the term means different things to different people, but it is difficult to define for people who use the term consistently. But I had another thought about Governor DeSantis, who I think is actually in New Hampshire today and campaigning. He was in Iowa. I believe right now he is in the great state of New Hampshire. And he's welcome to come see me on the show, but I'm probably too woke for him. But it'd be fascinating if he were to visit our wonderful sponsor, the Hop Knot. But he might not be comfortable there either. But I haven't heard anyone point this out. I'm kind of fascinated at, and I don't know if this necessarily started with Trump or not, but DeSantis seems to be really all in on this. the way the Republican Party has changed, and I'm going to probably ask our guest, Kevin Hammer. He's going to be joining us at the top of the hour. He's a Republican. He'll be Skyping in from the state of New York. I'll be asking him how he feels about this. But I've noticed that you hear the term big tent. You hear people in the Republican Party talking about wanting to have a big tent Republican Party. And if you haven't heard that, if you don't know that term, it's probably because no one ever uses it anymore. But what big tent used to mean was the idea that you can have a Republican Party where you've got a lot of ideas and a lot of different attitudes within it. You agree on a lot of the big stuff, but you can have some disagreement on some issues too. But as long as you agree on the big stuff, fiscal conservatism and strong defense, things that traditional conservatives really care about before they got hyper fixated on some of the things that Ron DeSantis seems to be, pro-business and all that. As long as you believe in the big stuff, you can have all kinds of disagreements on the not so big stuff. And you're still welcome because you want a party that's dynamic and a lot of different ideas. But DeSantis, to me, what he consistently does, and he did this long before there was even an inkling that he might run for president. This has always been his thing. But now he just keeps ramping it up now that he's a presidential candidate. He doesn't seem to want a big tent. He wants a small tent because there was a time when there were a lot of Republicans who would talk about wanting to bring more people into the party and wanting to get Democrats to come over and either switch parties or to support them. We used to hear about the Reagan Democrats, for example, Democrats who decided to vote for Ronald Reagan. And there used to be that kind of attitude of, we've got room for a lot of different kinds of people. As long as you believe in the same, as long as we agree on the big stuff, come join us. Or if you're not going to join the party, at least vote for us some of the time, and almost a welcoming in that sense. It was a wanting to grow the party and have a big tent. And now it's like, and it's not just DeSantis. I feel like there's a lot of it in the party. It's not only a Ron DeSantis thing, but DeSantis seems to be the most intense about it, where, most Republicans running for office, if you say to them, if you have a conversation, maybe you're in an elevator with them and they give you the elevator pitch, or that's what you're looking for. And you say, listen, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a left-leaning independent, or I'm a Republican, but the party kind of pushed me away. That's where I am. Why should I vote for you? And then they give you the pitch. Well, here's why you should vote for me. I believe in this, 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 and this, and we can probably agree on this. And here's why I think I should have your vote, and I would ask for your vote, right? And kind of a friendly kind of, because politics is, a lot of it's just salesmanship, right? So they're going to try to sell themselves to you. You approach them, you say, why should I vote for you? And then they tell you why they think you should vote for them. And come vote for me, come support me. But I feel like if I were trapped in I feel like if I found myself in an elevator with Ron DeSantis and I said to him, Governor, respectfully, why do you think I should support you? I'm not into the transphobia and all the anti-LGBTQ stuff. And, we certainly disagree on that. And I'm not into what you've been doing in Florida with, it's almost like seems like you're trying to erase Black history. I don't understand all of that. I don't get it. So we have some fundamental disagreements, but why do you think I should vote for you? In spite of that, maybe there's other reasons why I should vote for you anyway. I feel like Ron DeSantis would look at me and say, well, I don't want your vote. Get away from me. You're woke. You're like some liberal woke person. I don't want your vote. You're not a real American. You're a terrible person. Get the hell away from me. I don't want your vote. That's what I feel like. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't literally say that, but that would be the vibe. And that's something that I think has changed about the Republican Party in a broad sense. I think the days of the welcoming big tent, let's bring people in, I think that's kind of gone. I think now it's more of an abrasive sort of, you're either with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, it's because you're un-American and you actually like trans people and you're just a terrible person and we hate you and don't vote for us and we'll just have enough people who do like us and we don't need you. I feel like that's what it's kind of turned into. And I think DeSantis is really the epitome of that. By the way, to be fair, there are many Republicans who are not like what I just described. I'm talking about my impression of the Republican Party in a broader sense. But, there are certainly Republican candidates for the presidency who are not like that, okay? Or prospective candidates like our governor here in New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. He's not like that. He reminds me, people wonder why I cling to Sununu. I'll tell you why, because he reminds me of when the Republican Party really was a big tent party. Because he wants a lot of people in his tent. I don't feel like if I had a conversation with Governor Sununu and I said to him, hey, I really disagreed with you on this and this and this. Why should I vote for you? I feel like he would actually say, well, Matt, here's why I think you should vote for me. Whereas, again, I feel like if I had the exact same interaction with Ron DeSantis, I think he would look at me and say, well, you're some woke liberal. Get away from me. I hate you. Basically. And I think that's too bad. And by the way, if you take Trump out of the equation, that attitude does make him, unfortunately, it would make DeSantis, again, if Trump weren't in his way, it would make DeSantis a very strong nominee, I think. A strong candidate for the nomination in the sense of getting through the primaries, because I do feel like the overall vibe of the Republican Party has changed kind of to what he is. Lots of grievance, lots of anger, lots of resentment toward people who aren't with them. Unfortunately, I feel like there's more of the party that feels that way than has the old school big tent attitude. And knowing that, I do think he'd sail to the nomination if Trump were not in his way. But I also think it would make him a terrible general election candidate. Because again, once you're in the general election, if you're the Republican nominee, you want to try to peel off some Democrats. You want to get as many independents as you can. The Republicans are going to vote for you no matter what, but you also want to try to peel off people who maybe don't agree with you on everything. And I don't think Ron DeSantis is interested in doing that. I think Ron DeSantis, as a general election candidate, would say, well, we got to turn out as much of our base as possible because the people who don't agree with me, I'm not interested in convincing them because I hate them. I just hate them. That's what I think would be his, again, he wouldn't literally say that, but that would be the vibe. That would definitely be the vibe he'd be putting out. All right. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to play another song from the band Stand Up Audio. They were our guests here yesterday in studio, but they're going to be playing Saturday night at the Rex, and they've got 2 tickets to give away. So if you call in, you can have those tickets. Jenny and I are going to be there, so you can come say hi to us and see the band, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm going to play another song from Stand Up Audio, and then when we come back from break, we're going to have Kevin Hammer. He's going to be Skyping in from the great state of New York. He is a Republican candidate, and he's been on the show before, and looking forward to chatting with him again. And I'm going to ask him about what I was just talking about, because I'm curious to get his opinion, especially whereas he's in an interesting space because he's a former Democrat. He crossed over to the Republicans, but doesn't seem particularly conservative. He strikes me as kind of moderate, which makes sense because he hasn't always been a Republican, I suppose. So I'm curious to get his opinion on all this and see who he likes in the presidential race as far as a prospective nominee and so forth. So we'll be talking with him. But let's listen to this, and then we're going to show some love to our amazing sponsors. But this is called Dracula Eastwood from the band Stand Up Audio.
upside down, smack it with some octane. I widowed a block or two and left them on the high side. Injection is nice, but I'd rather be warm. It's just another vice, it's long gone. Eastwood, and her beauty don't mean a thing. She's a ticket with a thin hard line. Same train, different time. Injection is nice, but I'd rather be warm. It's a roll of the dice, it's long gone. Until it's dead and cold. Tasted good, stroked and bored and go, suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Injection is nice, but I'd rather be warm. It's just another vice, it's long gone, long gone. Ooh, long gone, long gone.
Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, 3 dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
WMNH, rip the knob off.
Welcome back, everybody, as we cruise in hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed. And we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. It's hot, but it's glorious. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Thursday, June 1, 2023, and joining us via Skype, Kevin Hammer is with us. Kevin, are you there?
Yes, hello. How you doing?
Good. Welcome back. It's nice to hear from you.
It's a pleasure to be back.
If you have any questions for Kevin or anything that we discuss, the phone line, the studio line is open, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. So, Kevin, of course, you are in New York State. Did you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
Yes, absolutely. I spent the weekend with family, which was amazing. I hadn't had the opportunity to do that in a while. So, yeah, it was great. Beautiful weather. And yeah, it was great.
Very good, very good. Now, refresh our memories, or explain for newer listeners who might not have heard your previous appearance. I think it was about 6 weeks ago. You're still currently a candidate. Is that correct?
Yes, I am currently a candidate for Schenectady City Council.
Okay, very good, very good. And I forget, had you held public office before, or would this be your first?
No, I have not held public office before. This isn't my first run for office, however. I did run for council in 2021.
Okay, right. Now, where you are, do you get to see, do presidential candidates ever come through there? I mean, I know New York is pretty much a blue state as far as the presidency goes. So I wouldn't imagine. Then again, maybe for the primaries you get visited there. I mean, do you see anybody coming through there? Probably not this early, I would imagine.
No, not that I've personally attended any events, but I do know that candidates have come through before. The closest place that we would see that, if they were to come through, would probably be Albany, the capital of New York State. I'm not that far from there.
Yeah.
So I do know in the past that presidential candidates have made a stop in Albany, New York. Okay.
Is there anybody, I mean, the field is getting crowded for the Republicans as far as the nomination, and it's about to get even more crowded. I think Chris Christie is about to announce. Mike Pence is about to announce. I mean, I still think Trump is going to be the nominee, but is there anybody that you like in that field as a Republican? Is there anybody that you're looking at as a potential? I mean, I know it's early, but anybody got your attention?
Yeah, it is very early, for sure. Obviously, we have some familiar faces who have thrown their hats into the ring.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing now is, as people declare, I sort through, I read up on them, learn more about them. Recently, for example, I've been reading up on, and I know it's common, and it's Vivek, I believe, Ramaswamy.
Yes.
Now, that's not any kind of he's the way I'm going by any means. It's just he's one of the more unknowns, so I have been learning a bit more about him.
Mm-hmm.
I am completely open, to be honest. I might have some leanings here and there personally, but I'm not someone who puts any specific political figure on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And that's just not who I am. I vote my values over a specific individual.
Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, my dad is a big fan of his, really likes him. I don't know too much about him, but Monday on the show, we had a gentleman here, Steve Laffey, who is also a candidate who, I mean, he's done some appearances on Newsmax, and he was talking to Tony Shinella from Patch here in NH, and so he's getting a little bit of media attention, but not much. And I he has no chance, obviously, but interesting guy. So he was with us on Monday, but we had an off-air conversation. He was talking to Jenny and I about he would love for us to get Vivek Ramaswamy on the show and have the two of them debate, which we might be able to pull that off. I don't know. That would be that would be pretty interesting, but. Now, so you're in New York State, but are you not a Trump guy?
It's not so much about not being a Trump guy or being a Trump guy.
Yeah.
I did vote Trump in 2020 over Biden, which I admit I would absolutely do again. More and more as I observe what's happening with Biden, it's not even about party. It's about the fact that we have a leader on the world stage who is continuing to decline both physically and mentally. And we see this very clearly. Compare how he speaks today to how he was even speaking 10 years ago. And this concerns me more than party affiliation, more than anything. So if it is, Trump versus Biden, definitely Trump. As far as the primary itself, like I said, I am learning everything I can about the candidates. Obviously, when it comes to Trump, one of the big things is that he would be entering in as pretty much would be considered a lame duck. That's something to be considered. But at the moment, like I said, I'm just putting it out there. I like a lot that Ron DeSantis has said and done in regards to Florida. And I'm continuing to like what I hear a little bit more about Ramaswamy and other candidates as well.
Now, let me ask you, Kevin, and I think I'm particularly interested to get your perspective on this, because I know that you're someone who, you were a Democrat, you crossed over and became a Republican. So you're not someone who's been, a Republican for a super long time or anything. So I'm curious if you have any perspective on this. I was saying before the break, I was talking about DeSantis, and I feel like, and I'm older than you are, so I might be drawing from something that that you haven't really observed, but I feel like the Republican Party, I was talking earlier about how it used to be more of a big tent party where there was this idea that they wanted to bring more people in. So, for example, in a general election, of course, if you're a Republican candidate, Republicans are going to vote for you, but you want to, whatever the office is, you want to bring in, if you can, peel off some Democrats, or maybe if you're running for president, maybe you hope in the general you can peel off some disaffected Biden voters even. And you want to grab the independents, of course. That's where elections are really won and lost, is among the independents. And but I feel like DeSantis is really, his whole vibe is not, I don't feel like he's interested in having a big tent or trying to bring people in. I think he pushes people away because he's constantly talking about defeating leftism, defeating liberalism, defeating wokeism. There's nothing welcoming there. It's all just, to me, it comes across as you either agree with me on all of this stuff already, or I just don't want anything to do with you and I don't want your vote. Do you understand what I'm saying? And again, you're younger than I am, so you might not have seen what I've seen, but I just feel like in terms of what the Republican Party used to be now, because I think there's a large swath of the party that's like that. I think DeSantis is just kind of that, but on steroids. I mean, he's the most extreme example of it, where it's just like, if you're not already with me, well, forget you. I don't want your vote. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand. Yeah, it makes sense, and I understand your perception in regards to that. Absolutely. I personally don't feel that way at the moment. Right now, as I observe DeSantis, one of one of the most common things that, we like to say in regards to politicians is tell us what you're for, not necessarily what you're against.
Right.
We need to hear both of those things. However, when it comes to DeSantis, I think he is focusing on issues that do concern people. And I actually know a number of Democrats who feel just as concerned. For example, where we have seen from the leftists over sexualization when it comes to children. I personally do not support, like drag time, story hours for kids, children partaking in drag. As someone who's attended many drag shows in his life, trust me, I've never in my life seen one that was appropriate for children. I don't think that small children should be learning about sex. Obviously, when it gets to a certain point, they learn about the physical changes in their body, absolutely. But to actually, some of these books that are being found in schools can't even be read at board meetings. And we've seen that time and time again, not just examples here and there scattered, of where a parent or a community member will get up and start to read one of these books that can be found in a local school library, and the school board will shut them down once they start reading the content of the book. DeSantis has honed in on this, and I think that it's something that people across the board actually care about, because when I leave party out of it, and I talk to even Democrats about, hey, this is a book that has been found in schools throughout the country, and it talks about anal sex, anal play, kink, all this stuff, and it's in graphic detail. And this is found even in some middle schools. I don't even think it should be in high schools. They are like, wow. And I've sent the videos for them to listen to, where parents will go and, read it to the school board, and they'll get shut down by the school board for reading it. And also, there was one example where there was a drag performance at a school, and the mother showed up to the school board meeting wearing the exact same outfit as the drag queen, and they considered that inappropriate attire. So it's interesting that it was inappropriate for her to wear that to a school board, but it was not inappropriate for this drag queen to perform in on school property. So I don't think that Ron DeSantis is off the mark. I think people feel that way because maybe how he comes at it and how aggressive, but also how it's being approached by the mainstream media. But I really don't think he's that far off the mark. I don't.
Yeah, I just don't see. I think the examples you're giving. Look, I'm sure that I'm sure there are things that go on that not all of us would approve of. But I think I strongly suspect that what tends to happen is, people take very specific things and then blow them up and offer an impression that, well, this is what's always going on, and that schools are sexualizing children and this and that. I think that if that wasn't being exaggerated and kind of exploited, because as you can tell, I'm not a big culture war guy. I think there'd be a lot more Republicans really upset about that. Whereas you've got mainstream Republican candidates like, we had Steve Laffey on the show on Monday, and he's not really interested in talking about drag queens and drag shows and everything. It's not his thing. He's just, he doesn't have much, he did express that he's very pro-life, and, he's as a Christian and so forth, but he doesn't really have much interest in talking about the culture war stuff in a broader sense. It's just he seems to think it's kind of a solution in search of a problem. Melanie in the chat room has a question. She says, what about beauty pageants with toddlers and young kids? Do you think that sexualizes kids?
I get that question all the time, and it's a very common response. So I can say that I consider myself one, to be very logically consistent. Absolutely. I think that beauty pageants for children should be outlawed. I think they should absolutely 100% be illegal. I don't understand why they're not already, given the history of beauty pageants for children, what we've seen going back decades, the abuse that we've seen. I really don't understand how they can still be legal. I would absolutely support making them illegal. To be honest, I don't even think that children should be allowed to, in a Hooters restaurant. When I say that I am conservative in that regard, I absolutely am, and I am consistent in that logic.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, you're certainly consistent. I would say, this is the libertarian in me speaking, but I don't want. Look, I have the luxury of being able to speak from a position of not having any children. I don't have any kids of my own, but if I did, I don't think I'd be thrilled about the government telling me whether I could bring my child into a Hooters or to a drag show or whatever. I'd want to have the freedom. Freedom, an important word, to make those choices myself.
So Do you think this isn't an attack, I'm just curious. Do you
Sure.
think then a parent should have a freedom to bring their child into other things like a burlesque show or a strip show, which, by the way, some of these stuff, when these beauty pageants, these girls are wearing some items that strippers wear. In drag shows as well. So, I mean, do you think that then that parent should have that right to expose their child to a strip club or to, or like I said, to a burlesque show or something of that nature?
So what I would say is this: no, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think a parent should be bringing their kid to. And by the way, I think child beauty pageants are creepy too. I agree. No, I don't think. I mean, that certainly wouldn't be a choice that I would make as a parent if I had children to do that. But what I would also say is, and again, this is kind of the libertarian in me speaking a bit. More libertarian than my liberal side, I think. Maybe both, however you want to look at it. But I think I would want the freedom to make those choices myself. Now, if you could show me evidence that there was some sort of, say, for example, you said, well, Matt, there's data and statistics that show that this is going on constantly. You have adults bringing their little children to strip clubs and exposing them to that. And this is going on everywhere. And, you know, look, I understand Florida is a little bit of a different world, but, and no offense to any Floridians listening, but if you could show me that this was some sort of a national issue, then I might say, well, geez, maybe we do need a law for that if this is out of control. But I'm very, something that I'm...
So
let me just finish this one thought. Something that I've always been really consistent about is when it comes to making laws about anything, I always have two questions. One is, are we making a law about a legitimate issue, or is this just something to placate the fears or concerns of a small minority over something that isn't actually really happening much? That's the other question. And of course, another question I always have is this going to actually solve anything? And is it enforceable? I should say more precisely. But, so again, prior sort of I don't want to say pre-culture wars, that's always been a thing, but prior to all this, stuff about drag shows and whatnot, I don't remember, hearing a lot about parents bringing their kids to drag shows to begin with, except for, of course, things like the story time type events. Which, again, if I were a parent, I might not partake in that. But I don't. I'm not a fan of making laws about it either. Because one thing I would want to do if I was a parent, I would want to raise my kid to be accepting and respectful of people who are different than they are. That would be very important to me. But I went on a little longer than I intended to, Kevin. I apologize. Go ahead.
In true libertarian fashion. No. Actually, I enjoy my libertarian friends. I really do. What I appreciate having in my life, even though I'm firmly conservative and, like where my values are, I do enjoy my libertarian friends, especially because they will challenge me the most. And I will say this, unlike many on the left, when a libertarian challenges me, they still manage to remain respectful. So I enjoy that. I enjoy having them in my life to keep me honest and keep me consistent. So let me start there. I have a few that are trying to get. They're like, "We'll make you a libertarian eventually." I'm like, well, I've yet to see a room full of libertarians agree on more than two things. Basically, what is it? Guns and marijuana. But no. So I guess my question for you is, why do you need something to be a national issue for it to be illegal? For example, if sexual abuse of children was statistically incredibly rare, overall, I still think it should be illegal. I would still think if rape statistically being rare, I would still want it to be illegal. To me, I don't need something to be an overwhelming occurrence in society to look at it and say, this is wrong and it should be illegal. We should have laws against it. So that, I guess, is my response to the position when people do say that to me, is I don't see it as a national issue. I don't see it happening every day. Statistically, I don't see it as relevant. I was like, well, I don't need something to necessarily be happening on a large scale for me to say, hey, this should be illegal because it is damaging. And in regards to stats, because I want to touch on that quick. So I actually have moved away from saying statistics prove, statistics show. I actually have moved more towards stats imply or suggest. And the reason why is when you look at where we get all these stats from, whether it be polls, specific scientific research, generally you're always going to find a flaw. First of all, has it been repeated? Has it been peer reviewed? What size, what demographics were focused on? What was the sample size? There's always some kind of flaw and stuff. So that's why I believe they suggest and they can point us in a good direction. And I reference stats myself, don't get me wrong, but I've been trying to move in a direction away from statistics show and statistics prove to statistics suggest.
Mm-hmm.
More in that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Are you, it's interesting to me that, so I might have, my perception of you might have been a little off. I thought, because you were talking about being consistently conservative, and my perception of you from our last conversation was you were a little bit more moderate, but was I wrong? Or, I mean, have you become more conservative?
Well, no. Okay, so my roots on a lot of my values are consistently conservative.
Yeah.
In specifically, I guess, in origins, to use, rooted in more of a conservative approach.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean what I most assuredly am is open to discussions.
Yeah.
We all have issues probably that we'd be moderate on, regardless if we're on the left or the right. Even if we consider ourselves the most liberal, the most conservative, there's probably an issue out there that that compared to someone else, there's someone even more to the right of us, so we'd be considered moderate compared to them, or more to the left, so you'd be considered moderate compared to them. I know a few Democrats that, compared to a lot of the people on the left today, well, the loudest voices, they might as well be conservative, right? And so one of my good friends who in college was very much a soapbox feminist, still my best friend to this day. It's funny because when I talk to her about a lot of the discussions and a lot of the stuff happening with those that identify as feminists today, she's like, I feel in some ways conservative comparatively, and she most assuredly is not. So I guess it's a matter of gauging that. It's where you're standing and looking at it from. Because I have friends who are conservative who say to me, "Oh, I consider you moderate," but then I have friends that have said, "Oh no, you're a hardline conservative in a number of ways." So it's a matter of perspective, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, politics is so much more complex, and people are so much more complex than the labels that we use to put on them. And that's part of what makes it also fascinating. One obvious thing, of course, too, you are married to a man. So obviously, I mean, if you were really, totally conservative, a lot of conservatives oppose same-sex marriage. I've always, I think we might have talked about that last time you were on in New Hampshire. We
did touch on it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we were ahead of the curve on that here in New Hampshire. We were one of the states that legalized same-sex marriage before the Supreme Court ruling that legalized it nationally. So, which I'm proud of. I always say I was pro-marriage equality before it was cool to be pro-marriage equality. I actually remember having a conversation with my mother, and my mom's very liberal, but I remember having a conversation with her when I was a kid about just asking her, how come two guys or two women couldn't get married, and she's kind of like, well, someday maybe they will. And then we did get there. I don't recall having that conversation with my father, and I think he might have had a different response if I had that conversation with him. But I do remember having that conversation with my mom. By the way, I think Jenny agreed with you on something here. Jenny said, regarding kids and strip clubs, she said, no, it shouldn't be allowed. I was brought to one at the age of 9. I can still tell you every detail. It was my birth mother. Give me the law. Trauma overload. I think, though, whether or not there's a law about that specifically, though, I would imagine that, obviously there's laws against child abuse and neglect and things like that, and reckless endangerment. I'm sure that would fall under one of those if someone had, called.
And keep in mind, we historically we have a long history, not just in this country, but around the world. we've generally, for a long time, we've been consistent in the fact that, yes, when it comes to children, we do tend to be more strict in our laws, and we're willing to apply the law more, regardless of political affiliation, often, because we acknowledge, children, they're not fully developed. It's our job to protect them. It's our job to nurture them in the best way possible, to not expose them to potentially harmful stuff, to try to not expose them, permit them to be exposed to it. So I think that's another thing when I discuss this, especially with my libertarian friends, is I always highlight the fact that we always approach children, issues with children differently by law than we do with issues with adults.
Yeah, I'm sort of, I always say I'm center left, but with a dose of libertarian, a pretty heavy dose in some ways. But most full on libertarians I know, they don't want any laws for how they don't even want to have to send their kids to school. They want they want to be able to do whatever, which is interesting. Where are you on public education, by the way? That's something I don't think we touched on at all last time we talked. I mean, are you?
No, we didn't. Well, I mean, in the I actually do support school choice. I will admit, it's something that I've more recently started to delve in a bit more. I myself, I do not have children. We do have a godson, though.
Yeah.
He is 5 years old. He's going to turn 6 in September. He's basically one of the biggest blessings in our lives, and since then I've started to think about education more. More recently, him being 5, he just entered school last year, this past year, so he's going on 6 years old, and so I've thought about education more and more when I talked to his mother and talked to her about what's going on in school, and he's in a public school, as most children are. And so I'm hearing those concerns, and I'm thinking about it more than I ever did before. I at this point, when I look at it, I support school choice. Parents want to homeschool. I absolutely support that. I think when it comes to public schools, the problem is that we're seeing just more and more of the public schools fail children, and they keep saying funding, but there's been a lot of funding over the years. Maybe not where it should have been at times, but the thing is like, I don't know, if something keeps failing, it's that definition of insanity, right? Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's honestly sometimes how it feels when it comes to public education. So I guess where I'll leave that is it's something that I continue to educate myself on and hear different opinions, hear different stories, and look at the stats as they come out. I know a big discussion has been, Common Core. Was that something that really helped at the end of the day? What schools are exposing children to? The fact that we do see children, we even had Biden very much say, you're very much, put that on that opinion that we're seeing in schools more, that these aren't your children, they're our children kind of mindset. That terrifies me more than anything. If we get to a point where government-funded schools are telling parents very openly, and we've seen teachers in school board meetings say this, mind you, yes, you're going to point out that you've been sprinkled through, but things tend to grow. Fringe becomes the center eventually, if it's not addressed, is this idea that your children are not your children, they're more our children, they're society's children. That is terrifying to me when I hear that even suggested. It really terrifies me.
Somebody's Melanie is asking in the chat room. Although I didn't hear you address. Did you mention homeschooling specifically? If you support that,
I did. I say that.
Okay.
I said that I do support the homeschooling option. However, it's how it's done. There are a few things that I think are important when it comes to public school that I think where children do benefit from. For example, one of the big things is socialization. right?
Yeah.
Children do need to be exposed to environments outside of their families. They need to be able to interact with children that aren't even their siblings. I feel that is essential to the healthy development of a child. That's why, actually, I know a few families in my area, a few parents who are homeschooling, and what they are doing is I believe they're saying schooling pods is the term. So
I've heard
basically,
I've heard a little
What?
bit about. I'm sorry, Kevin. I was just going to say I've heard a little bit about that, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So they're this is numbers of parents, not just 2 or 3, but, a number of different families coming together and saying, we want to homeschool children. So they rotate what house the children learn from, who's teaching, the interaction with the other kids. So this is, I actually support that. When I became aware of this approach to homeschooling, I actually was like, yeah, I actually support that. Plus, they're having their kids involved in community activities, clubs, summer programs, all that stuff. So they are socializing their children.
Yeah.
The parents that I know who are homeschooling. So in that way, in that fashion, I absolutely am supportive of homeschooling. Now, if you think about the stereotypical old school view of homeschooling, where they're just kept in a house all day, and that kind of view, then no, I wouldn't consider that healthy for a child's development. But that's not what I'm seeing on the rise. What I'm seeing on the rise is this idea of homeschooling communities coming together.
Well, the thing is with homeschooling, and I certainly don't oppose it. I have the same. Actually, my biggest concern has always been the same thing that you talked about, the socialization or potential lack thereof. But I think with homeschooling, it's just like with public education. You're going to have very different outcomes depending on who is doing the teaching and so forth. And when it comes to yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, interesting enough, what I do support with the public education system is I really would like to see less of, a grip by the federal government when it comes to the education system on a state level. I think, obviously, one of the best things if we really are having more of a focus on the education system being run by the states, as well as with the idea of homeschooling, is that if something is failing, so when you have people coming at something from many different angles, you're going to have people who are more successful in what they're doing and people who are not as successful. What's great about this is when you have that diversity of approach, is that those who are not as successful, if they really want to fix the issue, they can look at those who have been more successful and try to take away from that. That's why I actually like the idea of, our education system, our public education system being more state-based than, a federal stranglehold on that.
Yeah, I actually we have some agreement there. I've always been a big fan of local control. But by the way, Charles Richardson, who actually is from Florida, under the governorship of Ron DeSantis, Charles said in the chat room, I think the wording of "these are our children" is meaning that these are our next generation of people in the workforce, and we need to teach them correctly. I think that's a good insight that Charles makes. I've never found that. I don't find that nefarious either. I agree with Charles when I hear that. I don't think there's anything going on there where the government. But I don't believe in. And maybe you do, but I don't believe in the whole, the government wants to indoctrinate your kids and all that. I've never bought into that. I mean, I certainly never felt that way going to public school, and I don't believe that's really the state of things. But again, in public education, I was just going to say in public education too, a lot of it has to do with geography. I feel, because you've got, even within an individual state, like here in New Hampshire, we have I grew up in Concord, great school system. From what I hear, it still is. I've heard some wonderful success stories here in Manchester, especially from one of the guys who also hosts a show here. But you're also going to have school systems that don't have a lot of money, that don't have a lot of resources, that are going to fail. And you see that throughout the country. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all thing. But that actually is part of why I tend to be in favor of local control, because I think locally you can figure out better how to allocate those limited resources that you have. But I think there's great school systems. I think there's terrible school systems, and a million shades of gray in between.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the thing is like it's interesting because I'm someone who I consider myself very resistant to the whole conspiracy theory, or at least I very much try to be. Let's face it, we all look at things and wonder in our head, are these coincidences? Is there a connection there? But the difference between a person who just thinks that and a true conspiracy, someone who believes in conspiracies, is you don't let it control you. You make an observation and you see if anything eventually supports that.
Right.
So and that's how I've always been, how I've always tried to approach things, where I'll see some patterns out there, but am I really seeing a pattern? So I step back and I wait to have supporting evidence there. When it comes to that, what's interesting to me, and I'm not in any way trying to apply motive or belief to the individual who commented there, is I found that interesting of the future workforce, that was the first thing in mind, the workforce. It made me think a little bit about our next generation of drones that would just, continue a certain process. I guess that's not how I personally, and like I said, maybe that is my personal bias when I think about educating the children. I'm thinking not about specific careers or even the word workforce per se, and don't get me wrong, that's part of it. I'm thinking about the next generation of leaders in all aspects, true in the workforce, but also philosophically, culturally, all this. That's what I'm thinking about. Those that will lead our nation in several different ways, not just a job performance.
Sure. I don't know that that's exactly how he meant it, but I take
and that's why I said I'm not trying to assign any motive on his part. Most assuredly not. It's just I've heard that wording a lot. A focus on the future workforce, and I've heard it so much that I've started to think about it a bit more. And whether intentional or unintentional, it's just something I have found very curious.
I get what you're saying. Kevin, it's we're getting close to quarter of, and I know your time is limited because you have somewhere to be. You're a busy man, but I always enjoy the conversation. I mean, we have some sharp disagreements on things and some common ground as well. But I really enjoy the discussion, and we'll do this again.
I know, and it's interesting for me right now because one of the things that has been keeping me busy is obviously Pride Month started today.
Yes,
and that has certainly gotten a lot of discussions going in my circles, which personally, I find myself to be an individual who is very much disconnected himself from Pride Month, and to be honest, in many ways, the quote-unquote community in general, to be honest.
Really?
I find myself very concerned about the focuses of the current community and the issues that they seem to be taking up in defense of. That actually concerns me a great deal.
Oh, interesting. Well, we'll have to have, like I said, I know your time is limited, but if you'd like to come back, I'd love to talk to you more about it, and maybe we can get into that. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to come back on. It's both times I've been on, last time, it's been a true pleasure speaking with you. I can actually just give some information of where people can learn more about me, my campaign, and also some personal information as well.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so regarding the City Council campaign, we have a website, Schenectady GOP City Council 2023.com. Our Facebook is Your GOP Candidates for Schenectady City Council. Our Twitter handle is GOP SCHE Council, and it also will just be Your GOP Candidates for Schenectady City Council on Twitter. Our website also has a link to our mayoral candidate, Matt Nelligan, who is an amazing man. And as far as my personal information, I have a Facebook page from when I last ran for city council that I converted into more of a blogging page, which is Schenectady The Conservative Perspective. And then on YouTube, it's the issues from left to right. The 2 is the number 2, not the word to. That was actually more of a suggestion of a friend.
Yeah.
And that's where people can learn more about me, but also learn more about the campaign I'm currently in and my amazing running mates.
All right, very good. Kevin Hammer from the great state of New York. Thank you for joining us. And yes, we will we'll talk to you and we'll do this again soon. And have a great rest of your day.
You too. I look forward to it.
All right, man. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, that was Kevin Hammer, and yep, I like talking with him. I mean, again, we very much disagree on some things, but I do enjoy the conversation. And let's see, and we met him actually through our friend Billy Painter from Outlaw Radio, who when Billy approached us about Kevin, said, he's someone who really likes to try to get out of the whole echo chamber and talk with people who he not only agrees with, but also disagrees with on some things and have some real conversation, which I enjoy as well. That's a big part of why I do this show. So very good, very good. Let's do this. We're going to play one more song. Well, not necessarily one more. I'll probably play one at the end of the show, but we still have 2 tickets to give away to stand-up audio at the Rex Theater on Saturday night. I'm going to play one more of their songs here. This is called Ain't With Me. A great song from these guys. And then you'll have a few minutes after the song to call in, grab those tickets. Jenny and I are going to be there. So there's all the reason you need, really. But no, check out this band. They're awesome. So this is called Ain't With Me from the band Stand Up Audio.
She's coming through my window. She's working on a dirty mind, begging again, refusing again. I made a heartache that'll never end. One hand free and aiming to please. I can't argue with her expertise. Smooth like the lace on her hips, sweet like the lies from her lips. With a smile she can bite that whip. She goes down like a 5th of Jim Beam, and I'm feeling like it's gotta be. She had it coming when she heard about me. Had a conscience but it ain't with me tonight. She says she's ready for round 2, and I'm the man for the job. Here comes the night, I'll try to get through with a bottle of love and a crawling tattoo. Expensive mistress that I can't afford stole my sweet little ride just because she was born. Smooth like the lace on her hips, sweet like the lies from her lips. With a smile she can bite that whip. She goes down like a 5th of Jim Beam, and I'm feeling like it's gotta be. She had it coming when she heard about me. Had a conscience but it ain't with me tonight.
Ain't With Me from Stand Up Audio. give us a call, 603-250-6007. Come join us Saturday night at the Rex Theater, right around the corner on Amherst Street. It's going to be a good time. 603-250-6007. And Saturn in the chat room says, we say, this is nice music, we said, hashtag Matt. Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. By the way, just a quick update here, because we've been, I know, it seems like it's all we talk about lately. Not all we talk about, obviously, but the debt ceiling. This is an update from thehill.com. Debt ceiling live update. Senate scrambles with default deadline looming. It says here the deal to raise the debt ceiling is in the hands of the Senate after passing the House by a wide and bipartisan margin last night. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the U.S. could run out of money to pay its bills on June 5 if Congress doesn't act, which leaves the famously slow-moving upper chamber little time to approve the increase. While the measure is expected to pass the Senate, lawmakers today were ironing out an agreement to allow the bill to be passed in time. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, and Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, were spotted chatting after Kaine gave a speech on the Senate floor this afternoon. And I mentioned that earlier in the show. Tim Kaine last night was on cable news talking about how, he was very upset about this pipeline that Joe Manchin was able to get kind of dropped into the debt ceiling agreement. And Tim Kaine's very upset and wanted to attach an amendment. It was his intention to attach an amendment to this bill because nobody asked him apparently, and he said he's protecting the people of Virginia. But the problem again, as I mentioned earlier, with attaching an amendment to this now is it would have to go back to the House, and we don't have time. We don't have time for this. We've got to get this passed so we can avoid default. It says here, Kaine is pushing for an amendment to strip a provision that would speed approval of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, a natural gas pipeline that would run through West Virginia and Virginia. The pipeline has been a key ask of Manchin. Manchin told reporters after his own floor speech in support of the pipeline, quote, "We have a common ground to agree to disagree, but he's my dear friend and we move on," unquote. Schumer vows to keep Senate in session until debt ceiling bill passes. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer told colleagues this morning he will keep the Senate in session for as long as it takes to pass legislation to raise the debt ceiling and send it to President Biden's desk, warning the ex-state when the nation faces default is less than 4 days away. He said, quote, "We will keep working until the job is done. Time is a luxury the Senate does not have. At this point, any needless delay or any last-minute holdups would be an unnecessary and even dangerous risk, and any change to this bill that forces us to send it back to the House would be entirely unacceptable," unquote. I agree. And we talked earlier about, oh, there's the sirens. Happens once a show. I don't think the mics pick it up. Sounds like a fire somewhere, the fire trucks. I really, really hope that tomorrow when I come on the air, this is my hope for all of us, I hope that I can come on the air and talk about how the Senate passed the debt ceiling bill and now it's going to the president's desk. And at least we can put this behind us. And there won't be another fight over the debt ceiling for 2 years. Because that was one of the things that Biden was able to get, that Steve Ricchetti, who is negotiating on behalf of the president and the Democrats, were able to get in the bill 2 years instead of 1 in terms of raising the debt ceiling. So we don't have to have this fight again for 2 years, which is good. But what I would prefer to see is the debt limit go away altogether. And Saturn in the chat room says, "We say hashtag Matt, you have a good evening, and we will be watching you tomorrow afternoon." Hi, hashtag Jenny Coffee. We said, well, very good. Well, and a good evening to you too. And Saturn, I say to you from us. All right, before we go, don't forget tonight is trivia night because it is Thursday. Trivia night at the Hop Knot, hosted by Broderick Lang. So you can check that out, although I do suggest calling ahead because those spots do fill up very quickly for trivia. Don't forget, Jenny has a brand new article up in The Mighty. That went up today at themighty.com. So be sure to give that a read. She does a great job with those. And DJ Reckless, it's open decks tonight, right up the street here at the 603 Bar and Grill. I believe that starts at 9 p.m. Open decks, meaning it's like an open mic night, but open decks. You can go and DJ. So very good. Oh, by the way, and I didn't say it because I was waiting for the page to load. Oh, Jenny also posted the link in the chat room, but the article is called "When Access to Medication and Treatment is a Matter of Life and Death." Brand new article posted today at themighty.com. And that's going to do it for us for now. If you are listening live on Thursday, coming up next is Through the Stage Door, hosted by the great Rob Dion. And don't forget, be back bright and early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. for the morning show with Peter White. And if you miss any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, MattConnarton.com. And thank you again to Kevin Hammer for joining us today on the program. And we'll leave you with one more. Well, we didn't give away the tickets today, so we'll try again tomorrow. But somebody's got to grab these tickets, man. You got to see this band. We'll leave you with one more track. This is Hazel Eyes from Stand Up Audio to close out today's Matt Connarton Unleashed right here at WMNH 95.3 FM. Good night, everybody.